The Dallas Ice Field office, it got shot up this morning. While this is all still developing in real time as I'm recording this, here's what we know. 3 people at the facility were hit. A tweet by local police confirmed that at least 1 victim had died on the scene and 2 others were taken to the hospital. And for a while, it was unclear if another died on the way or while there, because you had some outlets saying that 1 victim died and 2 were wounded, where others were saying it was a 2-1 split and they cited a DHS spokesperson. However, you had everyone agreeing that the killer also made sure that they weren't captured and is no longer alive. The authorities are also saying it looks like it was a sniper-style attack, meaning that the shooter was a few hundred yards away. Also, as of recording this, we know very little about the shooter. So just as I was finishing up today's show for you, the authorities released his name and age. And while this is still developing, you already have people online digging into his history, into his politics. Which on that note, since it's so early on, we're going to wait for more information to come in, or we don't want to accidentally feed one narrative or another, especially when it was clear after Kirk's death that people were willing to just run or even make information up to support their claims. Right, considering that it was an attack on an ICE facility, you'd assume that obviously the shooting was anti-ICE in nature and that the victims were members of ICE. However, the initial reports from outlets are saying that all the victims were detainees. And you had the FBI itself kind of answering the confusion by saying,
"While we're not releasing identities of any victims at this time, what I can confirm for you is no members of law enforcement were hurt during this attack."
Also, at that same conference, you had the official adding,
"What I can also share with you is that early evidence that we've seen from rounds that were found near the suspected shooter contain messages that are anti-ICE in nature."
You then had FBI Director Kash Patel backing that up with a photo allegedly from a scene showing a stripper clip of large caliber bullets with one that says anti-ICE. With him also writing, "These despicable politically motivated attacks against law enforcement are not a one-off. It has to end, and the FBI and our partners will lead these investigative efforts to see to it that those who target our law enforcement are pursued and brought to the fullest extent of justice." Now, considering Patel's history of jumping the gun, you have a lot of people kind of doubting the photo was legit, but it at least lines up with what local agents are saying. You also had Vice President J.D. Vance similarly calling for an end to violence towards law enforcement, writing, "The obsessive attack on law enforcement, particularly ICE, must stop. I'm praying for everyone hurt in this attack and for their families." So there you had people noting that Vance's post was actually shortly after the attack, which some found to be an issue because at the time it was really unclear who was being targeted. Right, an ICE facility was shot, but detainees were the victims. And that, it led to questions about how Vance could push a narrative when evidence at the time didn't seem conclusive in any direction. However, you've had Vance coming out swinging against people who have criticized him, such as replying to one with, "The gunman had anti-ICE messaging carved on the bullets he used. What precisely did I get wrong, dipshit?" And then with that, you had a number of people saying, it's entirely plausible that since the shots were from a few hundred yards away and the victims describing many shots being fired, accuracy might not have been the biggest concern and detainees weren't the intended targets. And actually, on that note, you had law enforcement saying that the shooter just fired indiscriminately into the building, indicating that there really wasn't much thought being put into who could be hit. Right, but all of this is, this is not an isolated incident in Texas. This is now the 3rd time this year that an immigration facility has been targeted.